So, I'd been diagnosed with this dissociative identity disorder. I had a counselor. I finally found a community of people that I started making friendships with, although none of them knew about my diagnosis. And I began working with my professor, Leah, who was also, her and her pastor were pastors. And I started seeing her and talking to her. And what I found out was the parts, the little ones I had inside, the different personalities, they all had a story that they wanted someone to hear. I wasn't ready to listen to it, but they needed somebody that they felt safe with. They needed somebody who would listen to them, who would believe them, and who would love them regardless. And that was the issue. And it was, in the beginning, hard for me because back in those days, I was afraid no one would believe the diagnosis existed. They would call me a liar. They would say it wasn't true. I don't really have DID. They would pawn it off that I just wanted more attention, or what I said wasn't true, that I made everything up, that I was influenced by my counselor, that I was influenced by other things. And I did not want that to be the case. So I was very, very careful on how I approached my healing. And I, until then, from the time I was a child, was an avid reader. I loved to read fiction. I loved to read stories. I loved to read a lot of stories about relationships. Like Anne of Green Gables, I absolutely loved. She didn't belong. She was invited into this family, and just how she found her kindred spirits and those that loved her. And if anyone knows, Anne of Green Gables is an amazing series. I probably read the books a few times over. I would read Nancy Drew books, how she'd solve mysteries all the time. And I would read, Dee Henderson wrote a series of books about a set of orphans that came together and became a family for each other. And they were different healers and firemen and different things. And I worked through that series because it was people who overcame, people who created bonds and relationships with people. And I think that's what I was looking for. So I loved to read. And when I found out I had this disorder, this mental illness, I refused to read any books about it because I didn't want to read something and then go, yeah, that's what happened to me. I didn't want to put any ideas into my head. And so I refused to read any books about it. I was also a chicken to be on camera, to be filmed. There were parts on the inside that would not have anything to do with it. So 24 years ago, if they would have had TikTok back then, I would not have gone on and tried to listen to anyone else's story because of the fear that I lived in. And so when I met with my counselor and when I met with Leah, I made sure, one, that they didn't press, did this happen? Like, they were not allowed to ask questions like that. It was just, be here for me to talk and share my story with you. And the other thing is, I didn't do hypnosis. I didn't do anything where thoughts or impressions could be applied to me. And I also learned, because I actually by then had met a few people who also had the same diagnosis, and they all had different counselors and they all had different ways of approaching this subject. No one dealt with it the same. And my counselor had me try to do like a mapping map. Who is in your system? And I tried that, and it just caused more confusion because I wasn't aware of everything and I wasn't aware of all the parts. And what it did do for me was it started making me listen, and I started to give a voice to the little ones that had a message. Myself, what I would do is I went and got crayons, I went and got paints, I went and got things, and I'm just like, go ahead, write your story, go ahead, get some of the feelings out on paper. And so I would color and I would draw, or I would start writing stories. And it was a way to finally try to give them a voice. I'm trying to listen. I'm trying to listen to the story you want to tell, and I'm trying to tell you. And I know a lot of the little ones just felt lost, like no one could find them, that hope wasn't there for them. And I drew this maze often. This was just one of them that I drew, where hope was far away from the little me that was trapped. And I wanted someone to come find and give that little part of me hope. And so I wanted to share one of the drawings that I had done that I spent time on. I'm not sure which part actually drew this, because this was in the very beginning of me just going, okay, I'm ready to listen. Who wants to talk and who wants to share? And the idea is, whatever your story is, find what works for you. Keep working at it until you find something that works for you. I found what worked for me. They all had different ways to communicate. And so I share this little bit of my story, that the ones inside of me that didn't think hope was possible, but yet they found hope. I just hope that hope can be transferred to you too. Keep going, never give up, and try to listen to yourself and love yourself no matter what. Thanks for listening to my story, and there's more to come.